You hear footsteps inside the building. One player, maybe two. You stop outside the entrance. Your weapon is ready. Your aim is ready. And then you push. The door opens. Shots erupt from the second floor. You turn toward the window. Another player appears behind you. The fight lasts approximately 6 seconds. Back in the lobby, the explanation feels obvious. They just had better aim. Maybe they did, but that is not where the fight was lost. The fight was lost before the first bullet even had left the gun. The open door told you someone had entered recently. The empty crate told you the room had already been searched. The destroyed arc machine told you there had been combat. The footsteps above you told you one player was holding elevation. And the silence behind the building should have made you question where the rest of the squad had gone. The raid gave you clues. They saw the situation. That is the difference. Most players enter fights with a weapon. Winning players enter with information. Welcome back to How Winners Think. Most players believe combat begins when someone appears on screen, but it does not. Combat begins the moment information becomes available. A distant gunshot, an open container, a missing patrol, a door that should be closed, a body that is still fresh. Every detail changes what is possible, and every detail you ignore forces you to guess. That is why some players seem psychic. They rotate before the ambush, leave before the third party arrives, know when a building is occupied, predict where the enemy will appear. They are not reading minds, they are reading the raid. Today, we are going to break down why information is one of the most valuable resources in Arc Raiders, why assumptions get players killed, and how to build a clearer picture before committing to a fight. Because the player who understands the situation better often wins before the shooting begins. When players think about resources, they tend to think about ammunition, healing, armor, utility, inventory space. But information is a resource too. The difference is that most players do not notice when they are running out of it. Imagine two squads approaching the same building. The first squad hears movement and pushes immediately. They know there is an enemy inside, but that is all. The second squad waits. They listen. One set of footsteps is moving above them. Another sound comes from the rear exit. A loot container near the front has already been opened. An arc unit is destroyed near the road. The squad checks the surrounding terrain and notices that one route offers a view of the second floor. Both squads have similar weapons, similar armor, similar aim, but they are not entering the same fight. The first squad is entering a question mark. The second squad is entering a map. Information does not guarantee victory, but what it does do is reduces uncertainty. And uncertainty is where bad decisions grow. When you know less, every option feels equally possible. The enemy could be upstairs, downstairs, alone, with a full squad, weak, fully equipped, waiting, escaping. Without information, your brain tends to fill in the blanks, usually with whatever you may fear most. That creates hesitation or reckless confidence, maybe even sometimes both. Good players treat information the same way they treat ammunition. They gather it before they need it. They protect it and they do not waste it. Listen to the language players use during a bad raid. I think he's alone. They probably left. There should only be one inside. I doubt anyone heard that. You see, these statements sound harmless, but every one of them is a decision built on missing information. The dangerous part is that an assumption might be wrong. The dangerous part is that assumptions often feel like facts once we repeat them. You hear one set of footsteps, you then decide there is one player. From that moment forward, every decision is built around a solo opponent. You push more aggressively, you stop checking the flank, you use utility on one angle. Then the second player appears. The problem was not simply that you failed to see them. The problem was that you stopped searching after finding an answer that you liked. This is called premature closure. It happens when the brain accepts the first reasonable explanation and then just stops investigating. In a raid, that might mean assuming a quiet area is empty, assuming an open door was left by someone long ago, assuming gunfire came from the only squad nearby. Average players use information to confirm what they already believe. Strong players use information to challenge their beliefs. They ask, what else could explain this? One set of footsteps does not prove one player. Silence does not prove safety. An empty building does not prove the area is clear. A retreating enemy does not prove the fight is over. The goal is not to become paranoid. The goal is to separate what you know from what you have invented. You see, every raid tells a story. The environment records what happened before you arrived. A closed container suggests an area may still be untouched. An open one suggests someone passed through. A destroyed machine suggests combat. The location of the wreckage may suggest where the shooting even came from. A door can reveal direction, as well as a body can reveal timing. Gunfire can reveal distance, weapon type, and even potential movement. Even what is missing can matter. If ARC units normally patrol an area and none are present, someone may have cleared them. If a valuable location is completely untouched late in the raid, ask why. Maybe no one found it, or maybe someone is watching it. The strongest players do not see isolated objects, they connect clues. An open crate by itself tells you very little. An open crate, fresh wreckage, and footsteps moving toward extraction tell you something much more useful. Someone has looted the area. They recently fought. They may be carrying valuable items. They may be low on resources. They may also be expecting pursuit. Each clue updates the picture. Not perfectly, but enough to improve the next decision. This is why observation is not passive. You are constantly building a model of the raid, where players have been, where they may be going, what fights have already occurred, what routes are becoming dangerous, where a third party is likely to come from. The raid is not an empty map waiting for combat, it is a living sequence of decisions. Your job is to arrive late enough to see the evidence and early enough to use it. A strong player hears distant gunfire and changes direction. An average player watches and thinks. How did they know another squad was coming? They did not know, they estimated. That distinction matters, because elite decision making is rarely certainty, it is probability. A fight lasted for 30 seconds. That means noise has been travelling across the area for 30 seconds. Nearby players have had time to rotate. The original squads may have used healing and ammunition. The safest moment to enter may not be during the fight. It may be immediately after, when the survivors are weakest. A good player understands that. So when the shooting stops, they do not relax, they become more alert. They know silence after combat can be more dangerous than the combat itself. This is what makes them appear psychic. They do not predict one exact future, they identify the futures that are becoming more likely. They hear footsteps and consider more than location. Are the footsteps fast or cautious? Moving toward the exit or deeper inside? One person or several rhythms? Do they stop when you stop? If they do, they may have heard you too. Every action produces information. Sometimes even your own behavior can be used to create it. Move slightly and listen for a reaction. Open an angle without fully exposing yourself. Throw utility to force movement. Change elevation. Rotate far enough that the enemy must reveal whether they are holding or escaping. Good players do not wait for information to appear. They create situations that produce it. Most bad pushes happen because a player believes there are only two choices: push now or do nothing. There are usually more. You can rotate, listen, check for another entrance, watch the extraction route, use elevation, send utility through a doorway, create noise on one side and observe the response from another. The purpose is not always, it is not always to deal damage. Sometimes the purpose is just to make the enemy reveal a decision. Imagine a player is holding a building. You do not know whether they are alone. A direct push forces you to discover that information at the most dangerous possible moment. Instead, you decide to rotate to a window. You hear movements follow you. Now you know they are tracking your position. You create sound near the front and quickly move toward the rear. A second set of footsteps responds from another floor. Now the picture changes. There are probably at least 2 players. You have not fired a single shot though, but you have already prevented yourself from making the wrong fight. That is a win. Not every useful action appears on the damage screen. Sometimes the best decision is the one that reveals the fight is not even worth taking. Information creates options, and options create control. The simplest way to improve is to use a 4-step loop, And these are listen, observe, connect, decide. First, listen. What sounds are present? What changed? What stopped? Second, observe. Look at doors, containers, bodies, machines, terrain, and possible routes. Third, connect. What story do these clues tell together? Do not treat them as isolated details. And finally, decide. Push, rotate, wait, leave. Create more information. Then repeat the loop. The mistakes most players make is jumping from the first step to the last. They hear something, then they act. Strong players place observation and interpretation in the middle. That small pause creates better decisions. Not a long pause, not hesitation, a deliberate check. What do I know? What has changed? What is still missing? What decision gives me the most information without exposing me to unnecessary risk? That is how you stay proactive without becoming reckless. In your next raid, before entering any contested building, stop for 5 seconds. Ask yourself these 3 questions. 1. What do I know? 2. What am I assuming? And 3. What can I do to learn one more thing? You may hear another player. Notice a second route. See that the loot is already gone. Realize the first fight had lasted long enough for another squad to arrive. 5 seconds will not solve every situation, but it will expose how often you are about to act with almost no information. After the raid, review one death. Do not begin with your aim. Rewind 30 seconds. What Jew appeared before the fight? What did you ignore? What assumption did you treat as fact? What could you have done to reveal more? Most players' deaths begin earlier than players really tend to think, and that is where the lesson is. Aim matters. Movement matters. Weapons matter. But all of those skills become weaker when they are used inside a situation that you do not understand. The best gun cannot protect you from an angle you never considered. The fastest reaction cannot save you from a squad you assumed did not exist. The strongest armor cannot fix a push built on bad information. Winning players are not simply faster, they are clearer. They know what is happening, they know what remains uncertain, and they know when the picture is incomplete enough to demand another clue. You do not need perfect information, you will never have it. You need information to make the next decision better than a guess. That is the difference between entering a fight and walking into an ambush, between reacting to the raid and reading it. If you remember one thing from this video, remember this. Information reduces risk before skill has time to manage it. Listen, observe, connect, then decide. because the player who understands the raid better often wins the fight before it actually begins. The next time you hear footsteps inside a building, do not immediately ask where is the enemy. Ask, what is the raid telling me? Look at the doors, the loot, the machines, the routes, the timing. Every clue matters. Not because one clue gives you the answer, because together they give you a picture. And once you can see the picture, you just stop gambling with your every decisions made. This has been How Winners Think. Until next time, do not just enter the raid. Read it. Think first.